So we're going to talk about the big dogs, the big drones. That's right, drones in this category are more than $2,000. In this price range, you have a whole lot of options. For example, if you want a long-range surveillance drone, you can drop 45 grand on the Vanguard by Airborne Drones. But for those 45 stacks of money, you get up to 94 minutes of flight time with an incredible 22-mile range. Now, money is not an object, then you can spend a few $100,000 and fly around in your drone. Links to all these drones are in the description below, but in this video, I'm going to be talking about the best drones over $2,000 for filmmaking and photography. So let's get into it. First thing you have to decide is whether you want to use a DSLR or a cinema camera. If so, I would recommend the DJI MATRICE 600 Pro. Now for Sony camera users, you might like the Sony AIRPEAK, which is scheduled to be released in the spring of 2021. Alright, so let's talk about DJI's MATRICE 600 Pro, as I like to call it, the beast. It will carry a payload of up to 13 pounds or 6 kilograms, so you can mount different cameras, from mirrorless to RED to Alexa mini cameras. The DJI Ronin MX gimbal mounts directly into the MATRICE 600 Pro, so you can use the same cinema camera on the ground or in the air without having to spend time balancing it, thus allowing you to get smooth cinematic footage of the highest quality both in the sky and walking around. The MATRICE 600 Pro can fly up to 5 kilometers range. Now that total flight time depends on what camera you use. With a RED camera or equivalent, you'll get about 18 minutes of flight time. With an X7 camera or smaller, you get about 30 to 35 minutes of flight time. Also, make sure you get the TB48S batteries because they'll give you a few more minutes of flight time. Links to those batteries and the entire MATRICE 600 Pro cinema setup in the description below. A nice feature is the fact that if one of the propellers stops working, the drone will not fall from the sky. DJI also has RTK system for this drone if you want centimeter level accuracy for mapping and industrial applications. Now next up, the Sony AIRPEAK drone. As of the making of this video, this drone has not been released, but it will be available for purchase in the spring of 2021 according to Sony, so I wanted to include it. So all of this info is based on what Sony has reported, so take it with a grain of salt. You can equip this drone with any Sony Alpha mirrorless camera, such as the Sony a7S III or the Sony a1. At first glance, this drone looks a lot like the Inspire 2 with an FPV camera, obstacle avoiding sensors on all sides including the top. Now note, the Inspire 2 only has obstacle avoidance on the front and the bottom, and a cable for a live feed into your Sony camera. This setup is ideal for two people, a pilot and a camera operator. The FPV camera is most likely for the drone pilot, while the feed into the camera is for the person operating the camera. If you're not going to use a DSLR or cinema camera, you still have two of the best drones available, the DJI Inspire 2 or the DJI MATRICE 300 series. Now, if money is no object, I would recommend getting the DJI MATRICE 300 series because it does everything the DJI Inspire 2 can do, only it has much longer flight time, the ability to fly in rain with an IP45 rating, and most of all, it's not affected by telephone wiring and other electric circuitry in and around buildings that cause interference on the Inspire 2. Unlike the Inspire 2, it has obstacle avoidance on all 6 sides. The MATRICE 300 is the Swiss Army knife of drones, and its predecessor, the MATRICE 200-210, is also in that category, though the software and ease of use is much better with the MATRICE 300. It is the most versatile industrial and cinematic platform available today. Its uses range from surveillance, thermal inspection, typography, and cartography. The MATRICE performs in extreme temperatures and weather conditions, such as Arctic and rainy conditions. With the MATRICE 300s, pilots can mount up to 3 payloads simultaneously, including the H20 series payload, which is 4 cameras in one, a wide-angle 12 megapixel camera, a 20 megapixel camera with 23 times optical zoom, a state-of-the-art thermal camera, and a laser rangefinder. Holy smokes, are you kidding me? It's like a normal DJI drone on steroids. with features like active track from extreme distances and memory of previous shoots in order to save time and execute your project or mission. And for cinematographers, you can use a Zenmuse X7 camera with this Matrice drone, giving it 6K capabilities. Or mount DJI's Zenmuse P1 for photogrammetry that gives you full frame 45 megapixel photos without the jello effect using a global mechanical shutter. The Matrice 300 flies up to 55 minutes of flight time and a 9.3 mile or 15 kilometer range and flies up to 52 miles per hour. Now, the one advantage the Inspire 2 has is slightly more speed than the Matrice 300. And whereas the Matrice is built more for industrial application, the Inspire 2 is built with cinematographers in mind. At the moment, the Inspire 2 is the fastest non-FPV drone, reaching up to 65 miles per hour and also capable of capturing stable video in 40+ mile per hour winds. Now, the Zenmuse X7 gimbal camera has a Super 35 sensor with 14 stops of dynamic range and the ability to shoot up to 6K in Cinema DNG and 5.2K in Apple ProRes while capturing raw photos at 20 frames per second at 24 megapixels. This camera is compatible with 4 prime lenses, with a front FPV camera, 360 rotating gimbal, and dual heating batteries. The Inspire 2 has the features needed for professional cinematographers. For photographers though, I would go with the Matrice 300 because you can use the Zenmuse P1, which at the moment is not capable with the Inspire 2. Alright, hope this video helped you find the right professional drone. If you want to learn more about these drones, I made a free drone gear guide, which I just updated for 2021. In that guide, you'll learn more about drones in this video, along with other drones for different budgets. I also included my favorite software and accessories. So download that drone guide by clicking up here or on the description below. I'm Rick Aramella, the Drone Pilot Pro, and remember, fly like a pro.